talking about the dicephalon, which is on, it says page 4, the top of your notes. And so the dicephalon is really sitting on top of the brainstem. It's made of 3 parts: the thalamus, hypothalamus, and epithalamus. And so the first one, so this picture showing it, but the thalamus, what it's really doing is just a relay station going up to the sensory cortex, and helps with mostly interpretation. Hypothalamus, this is the big one for this section. It helps regulate body temperature, water balance, your sleep cycle, thirst, appetite, sex drive, pain, pleasure is all controlled by the hypothalamus. It helps regulate the pituitary gland, which we'll talk about a lot more in the endocrine system. Also heart rate and blood pressure. So plays a pretty important part. This is a picture of where everything is, your thalamus and hypothalamus. And we'll talk about your pineal gland because it is found in the epithalamus. Next part we're going to talk about is the brainstem. So sitting on top of the thalamus, and now we're going to talk down here, the brainstem. And so there are, this part's not in your notes, the pituitary gland, which controls all. So you have 3 parts of your brainstem: pons, midbrain, and medulla oblongata. Another picture shows the same thing. So here's a picture of it. The midbrain, we'll say later how the pons is the bulging part, which you could see, and then the medulla oblongata, which then goes into the spinal cord. So the midbrain, really it's just a reflex center for vision and hearing. The pons, again that bulging center, and it's involved in controlling breathing, and the medulla oblongata. And so if you guys remember, I said the brainstem is kind of your base functions, and so you're seeing all that here. And your medulla oblongata helps with heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, swallowing, and the one you guys can't see on here is vomiting. And so quite a few different things. Cerebellum, talk about this one. Really it helps with body movements, but mostly this equilibrium and posture. So here's a picture of way more than what we need to know on there. So what happens if you injure your brain? One of the biggest ones that we hear about is concussions. Technically it's a slight brain injury and there's no permanent brain damage, but of course if you get multiple, there is. Contusions, there's actually destruction occurring, and remember, nervous tissue doesn't really regenerate, or it does very slowly. A cerebral edema is when you have swelling, and that can actually start compressing and killing brain tissues. Not a good thing. Cerebral vascular accident, CVA, which is usually called a stroke. And so what's happening is there's a ruptured blood vessel supplying a region of the brain, so it bursts. There's something, so that brain tissue is supplied with oxygen from that blood that will die. And so depending on where the stroke is, if it's in the frontal part, you may lose motor control depending on which side, etc. You could die from it, but usually there's loss of functions, again depending on where the stroke occurs. And the other parts we have is the hippocampus, and this is where memory is controlled. So it actually means seahorse because that's what it looks like, is a seahorse, and it controls your memories. And that is actually called your limbic system. And so that's all your emotion, which includes olfactory lobes, memory, emotion, and smell are all linked. And so in class, we'll go a little bit more into the limbic system and kind of look at all these memories. All right.